Hi, this is Anthony. Welcome back to my show. I produce a wide variety of videos from unsolved mysteries to looking at investment ideas. In every one of them, I strongly encourage my viewers to seek out truth and use logic and reason. And sometimes, when you look for truth in an open minded way, you find things that are uncomfortable. Whether it's understanding uncomfortable truths in history or having to admit to ourselves privately that we've made a mistake in an investment. Some of my most popular videos that deal with investing are those that deal with investing in penny stocks, and in particular, local Oregon EV company Arcimoto. This is a company that was founded by the son of a man who had been a politician in Oregon and then later, after I'd graduated, president of the University of Oregon. But he was somebody who I respected, and the family has had a lot of trials and tribulations. But I want the very best for this company, its management, employees, and shareholders. But if you follow the news of the financial problems of Arcimoto and you're honest with yourself, the only conclusion that you can come to is that it's probably not a good investment. They were barely saved from the brink of bankruptcy earlier this year and could well have to enter it at some point in the future. The whole purpose of investing in the stock market is to make money. Unless you buy at an initial or secondary public offering, your money is not going to the company. Rather, it's going to somebody who is selling for whatever reason, often because they believe there is little chance for an upside to the company. Although, if the stock has been doing well, then they may just be cashing out to lock in some gains. I've done many videos about this company, and if you're considering holding or buying shares in it, I would encourage you to look at my other videos. But very simply, looking at the charts, if you would have bought it originally, $109.19 would now be worth $1.61, and you would have lost 98.55% of your money. If you would have bought in at the high of $637.40, you would now have $1.61. Year to date, you would have lost over half your money. Now, obviously, relying solely on graphs is not the best strategy for investing, but go ahead and look at their financials if you're still interested. They've lost money every quarter. They had to shutter their production facilities earlier this year because they ran out of money before they got an injection from outside sources. If you still hold this, sometimes it's easy to say, well, I've lost so much money, I might as well hold on, it may turn around. This is a fallacy. Even if you've lost most of your money, if you have any money left and there are better places to put it, then you should honestly think about selling your holdings in Arcimoto and buying something else. Think of it this way. You have $1,000 in cash in $20 bills, and somebody comes up and robs you and grabs the cash and they run away. But as they run away, they drop one of the $20 bills. And you look down and you see the $20 bill on the ground. What would you do? You'd pick it up and put it in your pocket. Because even though you lost $980, you'd still pick up the $20 bill. But when people invest in a stock that goes down, let's say they put $1,000 in, and now their $1,000 in stock is only worth $20, they justify to themselves, well, I've already lost $980. I'm not going to bother with the remaining $20. Maybe it'll go up. But of course, in many of these cases, it goes to zero, and you've lost that last $20. Anyway, again, I'm not providing financial advice here, only financial entertainment. I'm not a financial advisor. You should make your own decisions based on your own circumstances and needs. And if you have more complex needs, then hire a financial planner who has your best interests at heart. But let me entertain you with some other stocks that might be better for your portfolio than holding on to Arcimoto. By the way, I don't hold any Arcimoto, and I'm not shorting this or any other stocks. The companies that I'm now going to talk about are ones that I currently hold long. In some cases, I have just a couple shares, and in other cases, I may have hundreds of shares. I'm going to go alphabetically, and these are simply to give you some ideas to put on your radar for you to do your own research, not for you to buy or sell anything based simply on what I tell you here. First up is Amazon.com. This is a company that I actually work for, but I bought all of my shares prior to being employed there. I work at a sortation center near my hometown, and honestly, I don't know anything about the company that anybody who watches the news might not already know. I see a very narrow slice of what goes on in an extremely large company. And so, quite honestly, my entire opinion of holding the stock rests based upon what I've seen the company do long term. And you have to remember that much of the revenue comes from web hosting services rather than the more visible retail side of the company. As always, on this one and everyone that I mentioned, do your own research. The next one, and this may seem out of order, but the alphabetical order of these is based on the stock symbol, which in this case is BETZ, B-E-T-Z. And it's the Roundhill Sports Betting and iGaming ETF. This is one of my few investments which is still underwater, but I only have 2 shares of it. Again, I'm not suggesting that this might be a good investment, but it's an ETF that invests in casinos, racetracks, online gaming, etc. Its largest holding is DraftKings, and we'll talk about that pretty soon. Next up is Church & Dwight Company, stock symbol CHD. This is a company that a few years ago I would never have invested in simply because it seemed so boring. But after watching the booms and busts of the stock market since about 1987, I have come to appreciate some of the boring companies that just soldier on. So why do I call this a boring company? Because they make baking soda. They're famous for their Arm & Hammer brand of baking soda. They also make a wide variety of consumer products like water picks and toothpaste and deodorant and condoms. The company is about 175 years old, and the oldest chart that I could find only goes back to 1983. But if you would have had the good fortune of investing and holding since then, you'd be up 19,795%, not counting dividends. Again, I'm not suggesting you buy this, but if you did, you could probably just never look at it until you retire and be happy with the results. Next up is ChargePoint Holdings, stock symbol CHPT. I have 15 shares of this company, and I'm down quite a bit. I haven't looked at the fundamentals lately. Maybe at these lower prices, it's an entry point. Certainly long term, America and other countries are going to need charging stations for electric vehicles. Will ChargePoint be part of that future? That's certainly their hope, but who knows? Again, something to put on your radar and do your own research, but don't just buy because I'm mentioning it. Like Church & Dwight, as I mentioned before, here's another one that's kind of boring, and I never thought that I would buy into it. But it's the Spider Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF, stock symbol DIA. This is the Dow 30 that's considered to be the stock market when you hear that the market is up or down day to day. Again, if you have a long-term time horizon, you can probably just buy this and not pay any attention to it for the next 30 years. And by the way, because some of the companies in the Dow 30 pay dividends, usually on a quarterly basis, holders of these units typically get paid small dividends around the middle of each month, and they can be 18 cents or they could be 85 cents. Currently, the annualized dividend rate for these units is 1.9%. So previously, when I talked about the Roundhill Gaming ETF, I mentioned that their biggest holding was DraftKings Incorporated, stock symbol DKNG. This is a company that I started buying before the run-up, but continued doing so as it went up, and then it went down for quite a bit of time. I'm about flat on my investment with it right now, but I think as more and more states legalize online gambling, the company should do well. But do your own research on the fundamentals before you make any decisions. Next up is Double Verify Holdings, stock symbol DV. What does it do? Double Verify Holdings Incorporated is a digital media measurement and analytics software platform. This is one that I think I only have a handful of shares in, and I think I saw an article about it or a mention in Forbes magazine or someplace. The company's profitable, and if you look at the recent charts, it's really done well. This company, like many others that have risen quite a bit lately, may be due for a pullback. That will probably happen immediately after you buy shares, so just be aware of that. Next up is IDEX Labs Incorporated, stock symbol IDXX. And this is one where you need to be careful because there may be another company with a similar name or symbol. Here's another boring company, this time in the veterinary field. They make animal vaccines and water testing supplies, among other things. Here's another company that if you could get in a time machine and go back 30 years and buy shares for under $1, they would now be worth nearly $478 a share for a 50,000 270% return. The stock price is still down from its highs from a few years ago and trades at a fairly rich PE ratio of 57.51, but long term should be a consistent winner. Next up is my first really big winner back when it was called Facebook. The company is now called Meta Platforms Incorporated, stock symbol META. Last year was a minor tech bubble that burst, and certainly the company lost a lot of money after its attempted foray into the metaverse, but it's rebounded nicely since then. A lot of times people think this is a high-tech or a social media company, but really it's an advertising company. And an advertising company that a lot of people throughout the world spend a lot of time on. They, of course, besides owning Facebook, own Instagram and WhatsApp, among other companies. NVIDIA is a company whose fortunes seem to rise and fall with the latest trends in high tech. There was a big run-up in price as its chips were used in Bitcoin mining. When that collapsed, so did the price, but as AI is becoming the hot topic again, the stock is doing well. If you believe that the future of civilization will in some part have a high-tech component, then NVIDIA will probably be supplying the chips. As I saw Palantir Technologies get beaten down last year, I put a lot of money into it, which seemed to cause the price to go down even more. Since then, it's rebounded, and I'm in the black on it. This is a company that doesn't collect data, but uses data collected by governments or businesses to run through their software to find patterns and solutions to problems. It's run by a lot of smart people, and I think it's a very intriguing one that could make a lot of people very rich if you're patient with it. Again, don't take my word for it, do your own research. Invesco NASDAQ 100 ETF. The one that I have trades under the stock symbol QQQM. I bought it earlier this year, and of course it's doing quite well. It's made up basically of the 100 biggest NASDAQ companies, often ones that are growing pretty fast, but about 60% of the companies are high-tech. So when you have a high-tech bubble that crashes, it can go sideways for a long time. Keep that in mind, but long-term for the patient investor, it should do pretty well. One day I had a few dollars that wasn't allocated in my Roth IRA, so I bought 2 shares of Sirius XM Holdings Incorporated, stock symbol SIRI. I've since then bought a couple more shares. I'm up a little bit on it now, and I'm not recommending this, but if you were looking into something that was a penny stock with a wide name recognition, this might fit the bill. Now, since I have some NASDAQ and Dow Jones ETFs, I also have the SPDR S&P 500 ETF, stock symbol SPY. You're basically getting the 500 biggest companies in America. Now, a lot of people will say, I don't want just American companies, I want exposure to foreign markets. Let's face it, all of those 500 companies probably have some sales in foreign countries. So you're pretty well diversified there, I think. Again, it's done pretty well this year. There's always the risk that once you buy it, there's going to be a pullback. But if you're holding for the long term, it shouldn't matter. Here's the company that I found by looking through the Forbes 400. As I recall, there was a guy who inherited a grocery company or grocery store and started a company to automate warehouses, not only for grocery stores, but also for Walmart. At that time, the stock had been beaten down quite a bit last year, so I thought this seems like a no-brainer. The company makes software and hardware for automated warehouses that can save money by eliminating the human factor in some of those facilities, while also riding the coattails of increased online shopping. And sure enough, my investment in Symbotic Incorporated, stock symbol SYM, is paid off handsomely. I'm up over 139% from when I purchased it earlier this year. The stock has had a really great run-up, so be cautious if you buy it. It could experience a pullback. But again, if you're a long-term investor and you believe that companies like Walmart will continue to need software and hardware needed to run automated warehouses, then this is probably a prudent investment. As we get to the end, this is a company just like Amazon that I was worried about for a long time. I'm talking about Tesla. For 20 years, I saw Jeff Bezos and Amazon featured on the covers of business magazines, and year after year, the company endured losses. But it survived the tech bubble and obviously has done well for its founder as well as many investors. So too has Tesla stumbled along and with its mercurial CEO had given me a lot of concern for a long time. But I think as government mandates push consumers towards electric vehicles and the fact that Tesla is profitable, that this might be an appropriate security to look at. Again, if you own a wider market ETF, you probably already own shares of this company. Okay, I'm going to end here, but again, use what I presented here as a starting point to do your own research. Don't buy anything just because it looks good here. Buy it as part of your well-diversified, well-thought-out long-term portfolio. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whatever you have to say on stocks that I've mentioned here. These are not all the shares that I own, but most of them. And if you have thoughts on other companies, please do share them. Again, just because I haven't mentioned a company doesn't mean that I don't think it's a good one. There are many, many good companies out there that I haven't mentioned in this video, although I may have talked about them in other videos. And if you're going to comment, please don't spam the discussion with cryptocurrency schemes. Let's just stick to stock investments in this discussion. This channel's not yet monetized. I need a couple hundred more subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed, I sincerely ask you to hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and you just have to click the button. If you like the video, I appreciate it if you also click the like button, and please do comment. I can't really research every stock that people suggest, although I do read all comments, and eventually I try to respond to them when I can. Thanks again, and hope to see you soon.